This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
And we have a guest. Aradia, would you like to introduce our guest?
So, hi, everyone. Hi, this is Amy Lee, a guest.
Hi, Amy Lee.
From Denmark? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Yes. Also from the part of the world where it is evening, as opposed to the part of the world where it is morning, which is where Seth and I are. But yeah, you reached out to me midway through last book and said that you really liked Perrin and you had all these thoughts. Well, first you said you liked Matt. And I was like, well, too bad we're about to finish the book with Matt in it, and he won't be around for a while. And you're like, well, it's cool. I can make do with Perrin. So we've been figuring this out for quite a long time. This is much anticipated recording at this point.
Yes, very much. Yeah, I saw this meme in an ADHD group that it was something like, I will no longer take responsibility for how other people are feeling. And I was like, that's so Perrin. I was like, wait a minute. And then it just clicked for me that Perrin has ADHD, which I do as well. And I was not diagnosed until I was 30 years old. So I have a lot of different coping mechanisms that I all of a sudden recognize in Perrin. So that's why I was like, oh my God, that's why I've always related so much to Perrin. And I've always taken his side when people say that he's slow and dumb, and not that he's perfect, obviously. he has flaws, so but
so what makes you say that he has ADHD? What particular coping mechanisms or
lack thereof?
Yeah. What behaviors is he doing that you're like, oh, that's ADHD right there?
Yeah. So well, get ready. This is where all the notes come in. So ADHD, the age part is hyperactivity, and there are two different types of hyperactivity you can show on the outside, which is a type like Matt, who runs around, catches badgers, releases them on the village, opens up firework and stuff. And then there's the inside hyperactivity, where it's your thoughts that are racing and your mind is always going and going and going. You get distracted, or you have a focus. And that's what I feel like Perrin has. And because he has witnessed Matt, take literal beatings for acting on his impulses, Perrin has learned to mask his ADHD. And that's why he always takes care to always think through before he acts, before he speaks, because in society we're always chastised if we do something wrong, or if we don't follow the social protocol. Problem is, all these little social structures that exist are invisible to us. We don't see the subtext or the underlying communication going on, and we don't understand that. We rely on facts. What can we see? What can we hear? Smell, in Perrin's case. And we can usually read the mood. So that's like when Perrin enters a room, he can smell people's feelings. And I would be able to sort of feel out oh, I feel like there's some tension in here, but I have no clue why. And that's what we see in Perrin all the time. I wonder why Fiel is mad now. I wonder why Berylene smells like this, or and he keeps on relying on the facts, what he knows, and always coming to the wrong conclusions. And so to me, it feels like the whole world is a Tom and a Marine having a conversation, and I just hear the words. I'm on the surface. I'm a wool-headed idiot that does not. I don't understand the subtext of what they're saying, and everyone else does. They know the Days Daymar that's being played in that same conversation. But
so there's an emotional context that's just that's missing from all the conversations. Sort of a not necessarily emotional subcontext, but you're saying you just rely on the facts. So there's this other conversation that's happening based on sort of the social norms. Yeah, and that's hard to follow on top of the regular conversation that's about whatever the facts are.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I think everyone who's.
So,
I'm like,
just
we're all nodding here. I'm
silently
like, wait a
nodding.
minute.
Yeah.
Is this, do I have ADHD? Or you, well, hold on.
Yeah.
I spent the last year getting diagnosed with ADHD from the internet. This tracks so well.
Yeah. And also, a lesser known,
Hyperfocus?
lesser known
never
fact
heard of
about
that.
ADHD is hyperfocus and
Yeah.
hyperfixation to some degree, which obviously from the next book is parents' only focus is getting the yield back. And there's also another example during the chapters that I'll pick him out when we get to him.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. I love the basis of the argument. I think it's a great way to because I think it's really interesting to look at our characters through the mental health disorders that they're suffering from: PTSD, ADHD,
anxiety, depression. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, all those things.
Drug addiction. It just keeps going.
Schizophrenia.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot to be learned there. But before we get into that, tell us about how you found Wheel of Time.
Oh yeah, well, we have to
and the
ask
podcast
our guests
and all of that.
Our guest questions. Yes.
Yeah. When I was 20, my boyfriend at the time had the first couple of books. And so I started reading the first one, could not get into it. But then during the fall of 2008, I was out with the flu. So I was like, okay, I guess. And then it hit me. And I was hooked. And I read through them. And we broke up. And I had to give him the books back. And it was very sad. And
Rough.
And then a year later, the next guy I started dating, he also had the books, and I was like, yes, score, and he's long gone too. The books have stayed, they're, and I automatically thought everyone knows the Wheel of Time just because the two first people that were close to me did, and they don't. But I've tried to spread the word, and then back in, I guess, 2017 on Facebook, the general Wheel of Time page had a post about the podcast. And I was like, oh, okay. And What Spoilers is actually my gateway podcast.
I've heard that. Yeah.
At the time, I followed the link to your webpage and downloaded individual episodes to listen to them.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And then, a couple months later, my friend was like, why don't you use one of the million apps for podcasts? Oh.
And then it just appears. It's magically appears in your app, and you don't have to do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. And
the magic of RSS feeds.
This was in August and September of 2017 that I started listening.
Oh wow, okay. So you've been around for a while, yeah.
Yeah, and in the beginning I joined the Discord back when the live recording text appeared in the general chat channel.
That's
so
cool.
I got up in the mornings and it was full of a conversation that I did not understand. Yeah.
There's a reason it got its own channel pretty quick because people were like, "What is going on?"
Yeah. I remember when Tuesday was a pet pick day, and now thank God pets have its own channel, so they don't get drowned out.
Yeah, people walk into the Discord and they're like, "Why is it so complex?" I'm like, "There's a reason. There's a channel for every one of those channels exists for a reason. Whether it's because we got flooded with pet pics or because it doesn't make sense to have a live recording channel in general. All of those, definitely.
Yeah. So I definitely understand it, but I also remember when all the audio channels came along, and then I think right around the time when the Misboard channels got integrated, was like, oh, it's too much now, and I my ADHD perfectionism wanted to keep up with everything, leave nothing unread, and it got too overwhelming. So I took a break from Discord for a year and a half, and then for various reasons I'm now giving it a go again. There are other servers also that I'd like to be part of, so yeah.
The one thing if anyone's overwhelmed, that you can mute categories.
Yes.
In categories. So there's a reason they're in categories. So you can just right click and say mute and never think about that category again.
Also mark all as read.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
So satisfying.
They should really do that when you join a server. I don't like that they're like, oh, this is a bunch of new stuff you haven't read. No, just mark the whole server as red and let me see what's new after I join. So that's what my standard protocol. I mean, this whenever I join a new Discord server, right? It's like, okay, I gotta go through, mark everything as red, turn off all the notifications, except the only at me's or at everyone's. You know, so like it's a whole process to join a Discord server in terms of like what notifications you want, what you want to keep up with, what you don't. And there's some servers that like, you know, they post once. They're like, I want to be notified when somebody posts there, because they don't get posted in for weeks or months at a time. You know? Yeah. But there's other ones where it's like just constant daily barrage of information, and it's too much. So.
Yeah, I have way more servers muted, just the whole server muted, than I have that have channels available. I have like entire servers or entire folders of servers, and I will just click all as red. Like the whole folder of multiple servers.
Yep.
I'm in way too many servers. It's irresponsible. I shouldn't be there.
Well, I love being able to be there in other content creator servers, but I can't keep up with all the various content creators. There's so much.
And I think that's what everyone has to tell themselves, that yes, FOMO is real, but it's okay. You know, you can handle it. I can handle not reading every single thing that goes on in this in the server or even in this channel. That's okay. You know?
And it used to be possible, but it's a big community now with a lot of content creators and a lot of YouTubers, a lot of podcasters, and a lot of fans. And there's conversations that cross servers. I mean, it goes nuts. It's a little out of control, but everyone's really excited about the TV show, and so I think there's been an explosion over the last couple of weeks.
It's beautiful
months,
chaos.
Years. Yeah,
it's beautiful chaos, but it is, make no mistake, chaos.
Yeah. Let the Lord of Chaos rule.
Yeah. It's really true.
But let's dig into this parent chapter, because these are two not short
parent
a pair of parents.
Apparently, a pair of parents. I'm winning at the pun game today. Yes.
That gets a groan.
Ha. Ha. I win.
And his pair of women. I guess that's.
There's a lot of puns available with parent's name.
Do they have pears in the Two Rivers? They have apples. You would think.
I feel like pears get mentioned once somewhere in the whole series. Maybe, possibly.
They have peaches, poisonous, but
I'm sure pears get mentioned.
Yeah, they have to be. I think there's a pear brandy. Yeah, in some of these chapters. Yeah,
brandy.
totally.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, we're doing a pair of parent chapters, and that's a real thing.
While drinking pear brandy.
No, I wouldn't mind some pear brandy, but
I would love some pear brandy. Yeah,
not quite noon yet.
I did text Aradia that if Yusef had too much trouble doing an early thing, like I wouldn't mind if you'd spike your coffee, you know. So.
No, I think I should. No, we are having a little bit of a slow start this morning, because I think both Aradia and I are like, morning. Okay, here we go.
I mean, it is almost noon, but it's a rock star morning. Like, for a rock star, this is basically the crack of dawn.
Well, and I work nights, so I'm still, this is still early for me.
It's fair.
But
Chapter 9. Tangles, and our symbol is the wheel and snake. Sort of I feel like that's the default one. When like, we don't really know what's else going on. There's a Taviran in this one. Throw the wheel and snake on there.
Yeah, it's a lot of walking around and looking at people and being like, it was about all of them. Like, it's kind of that. So snake and wheel makes sense.
And for Tangles, I'm just assuming like all the threads of the pattern tangling together in this one spot.
And the smells of people tangling together, and the allegiances of people tangling together. It's Perrin looking at a blacksmith's puzzle and like plotting his first move. Or third move, I don't know.
I'm nodding.
Yes.
It's useful, right? All right, I guess I'll read us in.
Do it.
Perrin woke before first light as usual, and, as usual, Fail was already up and about. She could make a mouse seem noisy when she wanted to, and he suspected that if he woke an hour after lying down, she would still manage to be up first. The door flaps were tied back, the side panels raised a little at the bottom, and a stir of air rose through the vent hole in the peak, enough to create an illusion of coolness. Perrin actually shivered while searching for his shirt and breeches. Well, it was supposed to be winter, even if the weather did not know it. He dressed in the dark and scrubbed his teeth with salt, needing no lamps, and when he left the tent, stamping his feet into his boots, Vail had her new servants gathered around her in the deep grayness of early morning, some holding lighted lanterns. A lord's daughter needed servants. He should have arranged for it before this. There were 2 Rivers folks in Camelin that Vail had trained herself, but with the need for secrecy, there had been no way to fetch them along. Master Gill would want to go home as soon as possible, and Lamgwin and Brienne with him, but maybe Magdin and Linny would stay. So, just a basic intro in terms of Perrin's getting up, normal day in the 2 Rivers, and he's just encountered Magdin and her group. So he's sort of thinking about them.
Maybe
But
that party's
only
going to
it's
split.
not in the 2 Rivers.
What was that?
They're not in the 2 Rivers, though.
No, they are in
Oh,
Gheladon.
They're, yeah.
So
But also, like, the first thing that he says is it's a chilly morning, and that's our first clue that, oh, the weather is changing.
the weather really has changed, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, the very last thing of the next chapter is that the rain starts, and they haven't seen rain in forever. So I think that's a really good tie-in between these 2 chapters.
And we learn that there's exactly 7 days since the flows were used. So that's actually a pretty quick change.
Really? Because, like, how far apart are they? Like, where is the farm where they use the Bowl of the Winds in, like, comparison to Johanna?
All right, Wheel of Time
it's
map.
almost directly south, right? And they did say that one of the bands passed directly overhead. So they are sort of, if they're not in the central location like Ebu Dar, they are at least on one of the major arteries that went out from Ebu Dar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not actually that far. I'm looking on the map. It's like 1,000 kilometers
Okay.
from this map.
So,
like,
but still,
northeast.
why would it take, like, a whole week then for the weather to change?
You turn in
Oh,
the
not a
rudder
week,
on a
7
big
days.
boat. Yeah. Yeah, well. Our week, not a Wheel of Time week.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, she does say it takes, she turned the rudder on a big ship, and it takes a little while for it to turn. I actually think 7 days is pretty fast to go
Okay.
from,
Sure.
hot and boiling to rain, right? That it takes that long for any weather system to move in. So
Yeah, it passes over really fast. There's
It
getting
does.
these hints of coolness, and they get this quick
Yeah.
thunderstorm. Like, it's definitely a magically induced, like, like
totally.
Yeah.
trying to change gears.
It does. It kind of reminds me of, like, if you're turning and, like, you're skidding and you do that little,
Yeah.
like, your car kind of hops a little bit sideways. It's like they're really trying to turn that wheel as fast as they can without losing any momentum.
Yeah, that's definitely how I envision the whole weather system. And yeah, this is one of the places where the rubber meets the road, like
Yep.
literally. So, but yeah, Perrin keeps noticing it, and then eventually everybody else does because Perrin's more observant than everyone else combined.
Well, he needs those facts to figure out stuff. Like,
It's true, and hyper awareness.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So he comes across Aram, who's sitting across the entrance.
Would literally sleep across the entrance if you could.
Basically,
Not creepy.
a hound. He's a dog to Perrin's wolf.
Yeah. And think about how the wolves respond to the Tinker dogs and how Perrin is responding to Aram. There's
Yep.
this like weird, like, I don't know. It's not quite the same thing, but yeah.
I like
But
that his coat
Oh, sorry.
is, striped red and white, though the white was a trifle dingy. I feel like that's a little hinting about, striped white and bloody, and the white's getting a little dirty. That's all Aram is.
Yeah.
Going dark side or something.
I think the clothing represent his journey his descent into being bad.
Yeah, I mean, he could be taking care of that white cloth. Like, lots of soldiers run around with white uniforms, white clothes, but he's choosing to let that go. What else is he choosing to let go?
And we see that with, like, the white cloaks that become part of Fane, right? Those the ones who are influenced and get that sort of corruption. It shows on their clothing, right? Very much dirty clothing means corrupted. Like hell, just in the TV show, we're seeing that with Matt and the dagger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's in a freaking dirty bathrobe for most of that season 1.
We'll also see later when we encounter some of Masima's men, and it Kern states that Masima does not value taking a bath and shaving, and that while the clothes are nice, the men are dirty. So,
and I feel like Aram's just already falling into that even before he's met with the prophet.
Yeah, I hate Masima, but I don't blame him for what happens to Perrin, or from what happens to Aram. Aram is completely primed for that to happen. Like, that's just like a force of nature rolled through and pulled him along. Like, Masima didn't make any special effort. He just picks up people. And Aram is, like, desperately needing a zealot to lead him somewhere. So
I feel like that's true about the White Cloaks in general as well, right? They have a toxic philosophy, and people who are in trouble pick it up, you know? And I mean, gosh, Aram, we've seen so many troubled young men in our society who are ostracized from their pick up violence, you know? And in our society, it's generally guns in a school. But with Aram, it was sword in an army, you know? And I don't know, he just represents something that's very wrong with masculinity to me.
Well, and I think with people that want leadership and people that are lost, and it becomes down to, as Caldrick's saying in chat, like, if one person doesn't come along and influence you, like, someone else will. Like, who else will? Like, if Masima hadn't picked up Aram, it could have been Valda. It could have been a freaking Shan. Like, when you're lost, you're vulnerable.
Father figures are super important to the characters in this story, right? Like, what makes Rand who he is? His father, right? What makes Perrin who he is? Master Luhan, right? Who's a father figure. Matt is a scoundrel because his father, well, I guess he follows his father's footsteps, right? I feel like all of the men.
Are you saying Abel Cawthon is a scoundrel?
I am, yeah. The horse trader, definitely.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think he's gone the honest way, but I think he's definitely a bit of a scoundrel at his heart, right? He doesn't know horses that well. Like, horses are expensive. That man's stolen a horse or two in his life. That's all I'm saying.
Is that how Matt knows how to get in contact with the horse thieves in the beginning before he, what's his name? The fat horse thief?
Vannon.
That's a Forsaken.
Vannon.
Yeah, Vannon. Thank you.
Yes.
That is a Forsaken. That's just canon now.
Vannon
Dread.
Man, I was listening back to the last battle where he seals the horn and with Fael. I'm just like, oh, it works so well. Just make him Forsaken. Come on. Anyway. So everyone goes by Perrin from the new group. Magdan doesn't curtsy because she never is used to curtsying. And so Linny's like muttering, like, know your place, because like you're not a queen anymore. You need to curtsy to the Lord, right? Like,
what's happening with Magdan and Brienne through both of these chapters is that they keep both like behaving like noble women who don't remember that they're not noble women anymore, and Linny's just like with these freaking children right now.
You are blowing our cover.
Yeah, but also it's said that Perrin can smell that they smell of determination, and I'm just wondering, what are they determined to do? Are they like, did they just get a harsh talking to from Fael, and are they determined to put her in her place because we too are noble, or are they determined to keep up with this charade and like act the maid part? And
that's what I assumed, is that they were determined to act the part. They're just really bad at it.
Yeah, I read that too. They're both they're like, I will survive, damn it. It's like, okay, but tone it down.
And for both of them, when they get determined, they become more noble, not less.
Yeah.
So they're like, wait, I don't know how to be a
humbleness and determination. They see those as antithetical, but common people know that they don't have to be antithetical. They can go together quite fine. Yeah, it's funny though to see Linny just like head slapping, like, you're gonna blow our cover, stop. And then, so Seth, when we were recording before and we were talked about how Fael and Balwer don't seem to talk. They talk.
Yeah, there's a whole them going off
Straight up
and
talking.
yeah. I think Balwer's like, let me offer. I don't know if that's where he really offers his services because it seems like he offers them to Perrin first.
He says, "I'm going to be your
lady secretary,
Gotcha.
and yours, of course."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he does talk to Fael probably brings it up first. Probably Balwer like offers in a very subtle way, and then Fael like makes the first move, and then that gives him the confidence to then make the first move on Perrin because Fael's already said we're good.
That would be an interesting conversation to see between the two of them, as to like, because they'd both be very subtle with that one.
I disagree. I think that Balwer really has the confidence. Like, I don't at all understand what his deal is or where his motivation is, but I for sure feel that, no, I don't care what Fael said. I'm going to go to Perrin now. Perrin's my boy. Or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I guess more confidence that he wouldn't get, like, promptly kicked out.
Yeah, and also in the way that he talks to Mr. Gill. Like, didn't you have something else to do? Scoot.
He is, yeah.
But he gets in as the secretary with Fael.
Yes.
First.
That's true, yeah.
So he does set that up. He is the secretary already. And then he comes to Perrin and is like, I'm also pretty good at some other things, you know. So I don't know how much of that conversation he had with Fael, where he was like, yeah, I'm good at writing and recording. I don't know how much of that I'm good at other things conversation happened over there. Yeah. And how much she was able to suss out. Because, I mean, you know, Fael's no dummy.
She would definitely suss out more than Perrin would. Yeah.
And clearly, I mean, and he ends up putting her in charge of Ch9 relatively quickly. So,
yeah, he takes over Ch9 like it was planned almost.
Mm-hmm. They need somebody, right? Because they have a leader, but they don't have anyone with experience in spying.
Right, Fael's learning that on the fly. You know, like she got some basic, like, here's your starter pack on how to be a spy master, but go learn. And Balwer's like, 40 years experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we saw her send Ch9 into the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
To set things up. And I honestly, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that Fael was trying to set up Ch9 to go get Alejandra and bring her back, and she's pissed.
Oh, for sure.
That Perrin beat her to the punch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I was like, that's
absolutely.
I don't think it's obvious in a single sentence, but if you read all the relationship between them, that's like what's going on there. Is they're both competing to bring Alejandra back, and Berylane wins that competition.
Yeah, and Fael can't be too mad because it's good for Perrin, but it still stings.
But she wanted to be the one to do it.
But she also didn't want to explain to Perrin why she kidnapped a queen, so
yeah, there's that.
It's where she's in the next chapter, she's really starting to deal with the fact that she's got grudging respect for Berylane and would like her if they weren't fighting over Perrin. And it's like this, you're really seeing how competent she is, because her and Fael are playing the same game, and sometimes one wins and sometimes the other wins.
And they do better when they support each other and Perrin.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, power triad. I would love to see it. I just wish the three of them could just work it out.
Yep. No, I
have so many feelings about that relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I put Egwene with Galad. Fuck Gawain, and then don't have Berylane get with Galad. Have her just stay in the tripod.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Gawain can just go like die and do my wells or something.
Right.
Like, whatever. Anyhow.
You know, he should end up with Else.
Else Grinwell.
Else Grinwell. Just like saves her in some random. She's like because like we never find out what actually happens to her. I mean, I guess she gets sent home to her farm and lives out her life on her farm.
No, she doesn't. No. Else Grinwell will never ever go back to that farm. She's seen the White Tower. She's seen the world. She's been influenced by not one but two Tiberan. She's gonna go off, have an adventure. Yeah.
But and that's what I'm saying. So then she's got to go get rescued by Gawain. He can marry her, and they can go have babies.
He can go just do a thing somewhere.
Yeah, right there.
No, I would like that, because Elsie does deserve to have some life.
Yeah. My headcanon right now is that she becomes a barmaid somewhere, and Matt fondled her at some point. And
Like,
she
"You
likes
look
it because she likes
familiar."
boys.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Well, that's the whole clue that it's not Else in the White Tower when Matt encounters her the first time. Because he's like, she's not ignoring me, but she always flirts with the boys. It's not Else, it's Lanfear.
Yes, who does not need your twink ass at all. Yeah.
So
Gritty and Niall are practicing. That's
Yep, he
pretty
goes.
cool.
We get a whole summary of the camps, including the.
They just ring the ADHD bell and say that Perrin gets his breakfast handed to him. Basil has made sure of this because hyperfocus. What are physical needs? We don't know. We don't feel them. Like hungry? What is that? Like, yeah, water? Wait, And so Basil makes sure, Perrin, you have to eat breakfast, and therefore she makes sure he gets it every single day. He obviously hates it, and the way it's done is not like how I would approach it or how I would prefer it to be approached if it was me, but it's for sure because he would forget.
I like that. It's not just her like being overly like, oh, we have to have everything perfect. It's her being like, you literally will not eat unless someone puts food in your face.
Yeah, we've seen him do that a lot, where he's just like, no, I've eaten recently, I think, and like he's just fixing a wagon, and it's like, no, you haven't.
Yeah.
No, that was 12 hours ago.
Yeah. And he's resentful. He's like, how dare you bring me food? And it's like, because you don't do it yourself. Like, I know you want to, but
I do feel that Fael is infantilizing him in the way she has approached this issue. Like, if it was me, I would prefer if someone came up, listen, I've noticed you don't eat. I was thinking, could I help you by doing this? Or is there something else that you would prefer that I did in order to help you with this? Or does that make sense?
No, that's their class differences, right? Where she's like, well, we need servants and we need staff and we need staff for the staff and like all that, and she's just like dragging him along into that. I think that's where her execution falls down. It's because it's like you have a need and I will put a servant on that need.
But then she's also using that because the people have a need to serve him, and that's what a lot of this chapter is about. Is like, hey, if I'm a farrier, I want to be able to fix the Lord's horseshoes, because if I don't, then if he doesn't need me, I don't have a job. All of a sudden, I'm out on my ass doing nothing. Like there's a central point of power, and that a lot of this chapter is about Perrin using
not wanting
that power.
To accept.
Yeah, not wanting to accept it, but using that power, and the people needing somebody to take authority. And that's something that I've sort of become more aware of, is how important it is that, like, in a large group of people, it's important that somebody says we're going in this direction, because if nobody says we're going in this direction, the group scatters, and that to me is where people are being like, okay, it's not so much that I can't make the decision, but I need one person to point us in a direction. And it's not that I don't know how to fix this, it's just that I want to make sure that I'm fixing it or doing it in accordance with the central plan. And Perrin is the central plan. And sort of that's something he has to accept, Yeah.
I just feel like when he talks about how he needs to make sure the Two Rivers, like, fix their clothing or gets new shoes or whatever, I don't get it. Like, how are they not knowing that their shoes need fixing? Like, Matt has a whole science about this. There are 3 pairs of shoes and this is how you use them. Were they not raised in the same village? Like, why do they need Perrin to tell them that? Like, there are so many other things, and I understand it with the farriers and the horsing of the shoe and the serving Perrin, but just
I see. What I'd do is I'd go back to living with roommates. And despite every roommate being perfectly fine to live on their own, when you put 5 people in a house together, you have to establish rules. You have to be like, oh, the trash hasn't been taken out. Why hasn't anybody taken the trash out? Oh, I thought you would do it. Or I thought you would do it, right? Like, there's inevitably ends up being tasks that get left behind, especially if you're traveling, especially if there's always lazy people in a group, right? Like, there's always people who are tired in a group. Even, we venerate the Two Rivers as these, like, amazingly hard workers, farmers who never, but, like, that is an ideation. You know, we still have the Congers and the Coplans who suck, right? Like, they.
Yeah, I see your point. I just feel like there are different levels of tasks that
Sure.
need doing. And yes, taking out the trash is within the system that this needs doing, but your shoes are your shoes. Those are your feet that hurt because your shoes are wrong. Or
Yeah.
it's just that, yeah.
And I'm assuming 99% of those tasks get accomplished on a regular basis. He's just, you know, the whole you can't pull one over on Lord Perrin, right? He just catches the occasional little bits that gets missed. And part of the way he's doing that is with his enhanced senses, right? So, like, it does give him a lot of respect because a lot of people are like, wow, no one else caught that. And he walked in and immediately smelled the liquor on somebody, you know? So there is that, like, oh, wow, he's really good at finding out those things those little extra things that make the army that much better, that little spit and polish, right?
That's true.
Yeah,
I
no,
guess,
I'm with Perrin and Amy Lee. I don't get it. I'm like, I get your reasoning. The words make sense. I would not be a good soldier.
Right? It's very performative, right? I guess what you're missing is it's not necessarily there to make the army better. It's there to make him look like a leader, to make him look like he's in charge. It's as much about, you know, it's like when the Aes Sedai tell all the little things, you know, make sure make sure you saddle my horse. Well, I was going to do that anyway, you know, because I'm saddling my own horse, right? Like, using those sorts of commands of things you were going to do anyway is one way that Jordan establishes these people are good leaders. And then in a crisis, when nobody really knows what to do, you still follow their commands.
It's just funny that Perrin isn't doing that deliberately. He's like, these people are crazy. What's going on? He's like doing this thing, but without the deliberateness that like the White Cloaks or the Aes Sedai.
We can go back to the ADHD, you know, obsession, right? This, like, it's not so much that he's leading as he's obsessed with making the camp perfect.
Nah. Yeah.
No, in that way it makes sense, and it makes sense for Perrin to point out these things. What I don't understand is the men not noticing that, you know, oh, I can't actually wear my pants anymore because they're completely torn. Or
I spent 3 years teaching in a male boarding military school with a bunch of I know, that's the correct response. That is the correct response. And I will tell you, no matter how the smartest, most intelligent kids would let themselves rot if they weren't inspected on a regular basis. There are, you know, personal hygiene is something that some people don't get. Like, they fail. They fall down on that sometimes, you know, and it seems crazy, right? 'Cause to me, it's like, I take a shower every day. My clothes are clean. I don't smell. All that's very, very important to me. It's not important to some people, especially on the road, especially in travel and stuff like that. And so,
as a person who has literally worn shoes and clothes out, this is accurate.
Yeah.
Yes, that is very true. It's priorities. It is weird that soldiers would be like that, but the Two Rivers men aren't soldiers yet.
Right.
They're becoming soldiers slowly and ad hoc, I guess. But...
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely all of that fighting that happened in the Two Rivers that sort of turned them from farmers into soldiers, but they're still brand new at it. You know, they haven't done the long marches. They haven't done, you know, they haven't fought as a group for an extended period of time. They haven't done a lot of training.
Another evidence is how they've set up the camp that Perrin says, like, oh, it's all haphazardly, like, whatever in the Two Rivers camp, and then at the Mayena camp, it's all, like, organized and planned out and straight lines, and everyone knows who's where and what's what.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this whole time, while he's been inspecting all of these camps and rivers, he has been ignoring the Manetheren flag and the Red Banner flag, which is, we talked about this in the previous thing, he's leaving them up in order to hide his true purpose, right? Because he's saying, oh, I'm here to reestablish Manetheren, which everyone's like, oh, whatever, another guy creating a rebellion, nobody cares. But if he said, I'm here for the Dragon Reborn, they'd be like, oh no, that's a real problem, right? That's world-shaking events. So he's like hiding his world-shaking attack by being a petty rebellion, I guess, is what he's trying to do.
In the previous chapter, actually, this is also an example of Piran and like how he thinks about himself. That he says that this whole plan about the Manethran flag and pretending to, you know, be one thing when you're really another, he says it's like, oh, if you're a murderer, it's better to pretend to be a thief. And I'm like, wait a minute, Piran, did you just compare yourself to a murderer? Is that how you think of yourself? Like, honey.
He's a bit of a murderer.
He does feel like that about himself at this point. Well, technically. Yeah, no, that's, But yeah, this is the second day. He's now committed to this plan. He's like, okay, we're doing this. I'm gonna not say anything very deliberately.
And the Two Rivers folks are all like looking at him, looking up at the flag, smiling, and like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Piran says, "Oh my God, am I the only sane one left?" And this is a callback. This is something that Matt said in the Great Hunt right after he found out that Piran could channel. Rand could channel, obviously. And Piran was like, no, leave him alone. And Matt's like, what? Piran's not, like, go away, Rand. Am I the only sane one left? And later in this chapter, when Piran's at the Maena camp, he goes through the same thing and he's like, why are the soldiers reacting to me like this? I am the only sane one left. And that's what Matt says when he finds out that Piran is a quote-unquote sniffer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So,
their minds are all getting corrupted. Meanwhile, he's like holding on to the dagger and, you know, totally going nuts. Yeah.
Just actively corroding. It's fine.
Right.
He's
fine.
totally the sane one.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's just another
Piran.
one of... Sorry?
Right. But like the same thing here with Piran, right? Like he's changing, he's doing new things, and he's like, no, everyone else is insane. I'm not changing, which is very much like Nynaeve. Nynaeve has that thought later, like she hasn't changed, the world changed. Like
he does end the two chapters by saying though, like, I guess I do have to change a little bit.
Yes.
I guess I am changing, right? He does sort of like, I don't have to change, and then by the end he's like, maybe I do, maybe I am.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, of the three we just mentioned, he has been married the longest, so maybe that adds a little something.
Or takes it away. So he sees Cha-Fael hanging around. I love his description of them. Useful as rats in a barn.
Yeah, like an absolute problem. Just pests.
My father growing up had a bunch of those sayings. Useless as tits on a bull was one of his favorites. Useless as windshield wipers on a goat's butt. That was a good one. That was a new one. Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from. So this is I appreciate these little sayings like that. So
that's funny.
Mostly because my dad used to use them to describe me all the time. No childhood trauma whatsoever here. None. Son, useful as tits on a bull.
Yeah, my grandfather said that.
Yeah.
I mean, tits on a boar, but same idea.
This one's a little more PC.
Basil Gill? Moving on to Basil Gill?
Yeah, right
Basil
after...
Gill.
Okay.
Oh, good.
No, it's just I don't have anything for this particular thing with Basil Gill, but when Balwood then comes in and like go away, Piran is surprised that it doesn't make a sound and he's this light-footed man, even though, and I was just wondering, is this also a Forsaken in disguise in your opinion, Seth?
Balwood, yeah, I mean, as in an advisor capacity, it could be where he's getting all his information. Balwood's not a bad... Yeah, my issue is just, like, how in the background he is, right? Like, he takes no credit for anything. Vannon takes credit.
Well, sort of.
Well,
sometimes.
People know he's a badass. Right. Nobody knows Balwor's a badass, right? So, he's just too humble to be a Forsaken.
More effective.
Yeah. Like
an actual spider in the background, figuring stuff out that no one notices.
His personality would fit some of the female Forsaken. I can't think of a single male Forsaken who would fit Balwar. That's the problem.
Yeah, he
Right, like-
reminds me of Masana.
Yeah.
Moghedian.
Exactly. I'd be like, maybe one of like Masana or the
Moghedian, honestly, more. Masana's more of an administrator. Moghedian's just the plotter.
I mean, and that's what I
No,
think of
'cause
him
I
as
think
an administrator.
Moghedian would take credit if she could.
Is she the one that delivers the line, "The price you must be"? Oh no, that's Grandal. Never mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, never mind. He's not a Forsaken. Okay, sure.
It could work though. It could totally work.
I mean, Demandred, right? Like, clearly.
Yeah, clearly, very
Clearly.
much. But then there's Basil Gill, who's clearly just a nice, innocent innkeeper, very round, very trustable, and it seems to just be going along with events pretty calmly. It's just like, I'm gonna just run your household like I ran my inn. This will be fine. I'm just giving up my
It's
inn
not that
forever.
different, really.
It's fine.
And a Shabayan is apparently a Borderlander idea.
Yeah.
That she
It's the
adopts
housekeeper.
for him. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's the fetcher of things.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, and then it's so hilarious. He's like, I'm gonna go into town to get some Two Rivers tobacco. I'm just gonna take some of your latest retainers. It's like, that's the cart that Alejandra would get smuggled out in. If that happened, if that plot went down,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
cart, that
Oh, for sure.
collection of people. Basil Gill doesn't know that, but that's exactly what that mission is. Like the whole like Two Rivers leaf, like just out of nowhere. It doesn't make sense because it's a cover.
Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, why are we going for 2 Rivers back that you're probably not going to find there anyway? It's like, because we're going to go kidnap, or at least convince the queen to leave in the back of a cart. That's why she checks to make sure that the carts aren't searched, all that sort of thing. Yep. And instead, she gets snuck out as just a lady's maid. And Fael's just like, like,
Oh, that's more efficient. Damn it. Yeah. But yeah, Balwar's whole feeling out of Perrin and like not telling him the whole story with the White Cloaks is very interesting, like triple layered conversation.
I have other questions. Like, Balwer also says that Masima is probably in Abelar because there were some inns that were closed down, and also headcanon previously, like just a couple of sentences ago, Perrin said that they just visited a town or a village with 4 inns, and I was like, wait, did Balwer just say that there were 4 inns that was closed down? Did the Two Rivers party too hard for Masima's taste, or like? Anyway, and but also, how does Balwer remember the names of these inns? Is it because the White Cloaks were all alcoholics, or like, how would he know this?
I think he's lying, just straight out. I think he's taking other information he has and just tacking some reasonable story onto it. But if it's not that, he has a photographic memory.
That's what I'm thinking with. Balwar just has an incredible memory. He looks at papers constantly. Maybe he has spies at various inns. Maybe he has contacts. You know, because, again, Gillidan's not that far away from Altara, where the White Cloaks are based, right?
Yep. I mean, bring my
It's
map
not.
up, but yeah, I think I have a better head for maps, but
I don't know with that geology degree. Yeah, so, I mean,
yeah, they're very close together.
sorry, Amadicia, which is where
Yeah,
the White Cloaks
Amadicia and Altara are
they
like-
literally
like a
wrap
triangle
around
with
Gillidan. Yeah. So, I mean, it's obvious that, not obvious, but it seems to me that Balwar, especially because they were talking about, like, taking over Gillidan, because it's, with Altara and Amadicia, they've just got Gillidan sandwiched between them, right? They were going to take Almouth Plain, and all of a sudden Gillidan was going to be, that literally was Niall's next target before he was killed, right? That's why he sent people to Almouth Plain, is like, you take that, and then you crush Terabon and Gillidan, there's nothing there, and then you basically have all the, what now the Shan-Chan have it all, but all of that territory goes to the White Cloaks. So yeah, I just think he's very familiar with Gillidan, and probably has spies in various towns, and spies are at inns.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Perrin thinks, well, it makes no sense for you to know this random information unless you were like the spy master, geographer extraordinaire
Exactly.
for a military organization trying to take over the Westlands.
Right.
But that doesn't seem likely.
But that doesn't seem likely at all.
At all.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a little bit just like he collates information. He takes all the little pieces, just like Tom does. He takes all the little pieces of information he has, plus what he knows, does the summation, and comes up with the truth almost every single time. And what he's doing here is basically doing that whole time traveler thing where I'm from the future and the team is going to win by this much on this date, and that's how I prove to you that I'm good at what I do and I actually know what I'm talking about. Like, that's not exactly time traveler, but using his spy information to predict the future and prove that means he knows what he's talking about. So the rest of his advice, it's like, if they win this game by this many points, you have to leave your wife on Tuesday. One of those like type things.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
I often wonder how much Balwer knows about Perrin before this, given who he worked for. Like, he says, like, I know that you've had problems with them, but, like, he must know, like, everything, right?
Yeah, Perrin is like known to the White Cloaks and
Very
is like,
known.
a refugee or something. Like, yeah.
A murderer that they need to hunt down and put on trial. Like, he's a big deal. He's on, like, the blacklist or something.
I'm just wondering if that information got back to Patron Nile before he was killed and Balwer had to run.
That's the question.
Because
he only ever gets persecuted by people who knew him.
Yeah. And, so Bayar is really the source of that information. And Bayar leaves Falma and runs directly, probably gets nailed by Grendel, but then doesn't he go to, Valda, or does he go to Nile?
I thought he went to Nile.
I think he goes to Nile, and he says all about, like, and Nile's like, why are you obsessed with this random dark friend, Perrin Abara, from the Two Rivers? And it's like, oh yeah, he's from, so I have to assume Balwer knows all that.
Balwer knows everything that Bayar has to say. And
This
then
is the new Baron knows, Balwer knows?
Yeah, basically.
Power couple.
No, man. Can you imagine Warder and Aes Sedai there?
No.
And no secret would be safe.
No
secret.
Not at all. And then also Balwer is like, will you please be my tool to help me sabotage all the Children of the Light because I hate Valda?
Mm-hmm.
This is the beginning of him being like, can I use you in return? Which is cool. I dig that. I dig that Balwer's like, I will take you down so hard.
Mm-hmm. And we see here just who he hates. Valda's a dangerous man, and Asanawa, the Grand Inquisitor, makes Valda seem pleasant. Those are the two he's warning him about. Because those are the two who killed Nile. Those are the two who he really, really hates.
Yeah.
And then I love his, if I must say so, my lord's display of the Manethon banner is inspired. My lord will be more than a match for Valda and Asanawa if he takes care. Balwer is reading exactly why that banner is being left up and approves. He's like, oh, you're hiding your true purpose. Nice. Well done.
Clever.
Yeah,
Clever. Love it.
Yeah, love it.
Your wife thought of that, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, good advisors sometimes are more important than a good leader. Or a good leader who takes advice from good advisors.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I love Balwer. I know his overall goal doesn't really make sense until you consider him just loving the beauty of spy mastering. Like, this is a man who loves his craft. He doesn't care who he does it for. He just wants someone to appreciate him. That's all he wants.
Yeah, but almost nobody appreciates that about him, as we see with Morghase's party. Because they see Balwer go and, like, huddle with Perrin, and they freak out. They're like, he just absolutely told Perrin that we have the former queen of Andor. Like, do we have to go? Like, do we have time to grab our stuff? Like, panic. They are in panic mode because they're sure that that's what Balwer just did. Meanwhile, Balwer's like, I just moved on from small potatoes to a complete Thanksgiving dinner. Like, I do not care about what is going on over here.
There's a great scene later when Perrin's like, I wonder if Balwer ever figured out that Morghase was queen, that Magdan was Queen Morghase. He must be kicking himself for not figuring that one out.
Yeah,
we're all being like,
yeah.
Yeah, he knew. He knew.
Balwer has this incredibly strong moral compass, even though it's pointed entirely in a direction of his choosing. Like, he never saw any reason to betray that secret, so he didn't. Because why would you?
Yep.
He's cool dude. Even though he worked with the White Cloaks, and I hate liking him because I'm like, you facilitated I don't know how many crimes against humanity by helping the White Cloaks because of the beauty of their plot. Like, stop being so likable.
Yeah, and I can see buying into Patron Niles, like, someone's got to unite the world for the last battle. Might as well be the White Cloaks, right? Because on the surface, they are the children of the light. They are the warriors of the light fighting against the dark.
Yeah,
if you don't know what they
been
do,
working together since before the apocalypse was announced.
Yeah.
Like, he was complicit and didn't care that he was working for the Spanish Inquisition and a bunch of witch trials. Like,
listen, he didn't expect it, okay?
That with any other character, I would accept that.
So you said the Spanish Inquisition. I had to. Yeah.
I blew right past that into logic.
You
Damn
did.
it.
You did. So, speaking of blowing right past logic, Perrin sends Aram to go hang out with the new group and make friends, which would have been good if Aram needs friends, right? But this group has secrets, and they are not looking to make friends.
Yeah, Perrin's trying to tie up two loose ends that want nothing to do with each other.
But also, it's kind of wonderful that Perrin's like, oh, go talk to them, go make friends with them, because, they need to feel welcome and safe here, and you need friends too. And then, like, Aram is like, oh, okay, I'll go talk to them, and then come join you as soon as I've said hello, because that's talking to them. And then Perrin's like, oh, I'm gonna go visit the Aiel, and Aram's like, oh, it might take a while, and this is a callback to way back when you, Seth, and Patrick was talking about how Moraine was trying to guide the boys by giving them options and giving them, making sure that the thing that Moraine wanted them to do would be the least bad option for the boys to do. And I feel like that's what Perrin unknowingly is doing here.
Well, because I don't think he gets just how much the way of the leaf and Aram's betrayal of it makes the Aiel uncomfortable.
No,
Absolutely
he knows
not.
nothing about
No.
it.
Yeah, no.
But, like, oh my god, Aram is everything that the Aiel represent, right? Former follower of the Way of Leaf who picked up a weapon and betrayed it.
A sword.
But a sword.
But
Yeah.
a sword, right. So, like, he's gone even that step further. But yeah, that's...
Why does Aram then hate the Aiel or not want to? Like, I understand why the Aiel have complicated feelings toward Aram, but what did they do to him?
I assume just being ostracized. I mean, this boy, again, we talk about how his whole life has been ripped away from him. His family's abandoned him. And he probably went over to the Aiel to be like, hey, what's up? And they're like, get away from us, you fucking weirdo, traitor. Don't even bring that Way of the Leaf shit in our area. Because they do not like Tinkers. So. They've never liked Tinkers. Aiel,
well, that's true. And now that they know their past, they feel even more complicated.
Even more complicated about it.
But I think that Aram might be a bit like hostile because he is jealous of the relationship that Perrin has with Gaul and that Friel has with Bane and Shia.
I hadn't even thought of that. No. I just thought of it as being the culture, like the Aiel don't like Tinkers and Aram doesn't like people, so that just didn't go well. But I hadn't thought about...
Like, yes, the Aiel not liking Aram is definitely the cultural aspect, but Aram not appreciating the Aiel is like, well, I just don't like anyone, and my best friend Perrin can't have another best friend, especially not one that's Aiel. Now I'm mad at all the Aiel.
Mm-hmm. I could totally see that, because I don't see Aram having actually had an incident with the Aiel.
Yeah,
it's just got to be more, icky.
Yeah, also because, like Perrin says, if there was an incident, then someone would be dead and it wouldn't be an Aiel.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for sure.
Although, I mean, we do make Aram out to be almost one of the most badass sword fighters in the series, right? He is amazingly good, and maybe against a generic Aiel, he might actually have won.
If anyone could with a sword out of nowhere, probably it would be Aram.
Aram's in that level of sword fighter who, because like we see like Gawain and Galad and those sort of really good sword fighters take out Aiel pretty much no problem.
And he was trained by Tam, who survived the Aiel War with a sword, so...
And Cauldrick in the chat is saying he was a blade master.
Right, yeah. So if anyone could, it would be Aram. But yeah, Perrin would have heard about it. Like,
That's what I'm
was there an
thinking, yeah.
incident is not a question that would be happening.
Yeah.
Like, there would be a body. Somebody would end up dead.
Yeah, I think it's more of just a verbal confrontation, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably, like, Aram knew that Aiel were kind of an off thing even before, right? Like, Tinkers and Aiel have had differences that they don't necessarily know, but they know they have, right? For a long time. So it wasn't like a great relationship that got cut off. Like, there was nothing there to work with.
Well, I mean, the leaders of the Aiel always knew the shameful past.
Right. We don't know where the Tinkers fall on that lore, but they knew that they could go through the waste, but that the Aiel wouldn't talk to them. Like, there's clearly a gulf there, no matter how ignorant you are about it. There is clearly a gulf.
Yeah. But this is, again, like, Perrin misunderstanding this, like, cultural subtext that's going on, and he just doesn't get it. Like,
well, he doesn't have the information to. He doesn't even know as much as Matt does. Matt has seen more about this than Perrin ever did, because Matt went to the waste with Rand. Perrin has been given no information.
Perrin stayed with the Tinkers.
Right. But they never talked about the Aiel. Well, I guess no, there was that story about the Aiel that came to the... Okay, yeah, no, you're right. I guess he does know almost as much as Matt. He just doesn't ask questions. You'd think he would, but he doesn't, which is... He's usually good about asking questions. Perrin is. But yeah, I guess with this one, he just assumes he knows. So it just, like, goes on, like...
He assumes a lot in these chapters. Like, also, first thing he says after he gets out of his tent is, oh, I assume that Basil Gill and Lamgren are going to go back to the inn in Camelin. Like, how would you know that that's what they want to do? And later he says to Aram, in this particular case, when Aram is supposed to go make friends, but don't moon over the women because they're taken. So, you know, Perrin knows that Lamgren and Brianna have a thing, but, like, why would you assume that they would just go home to Camelin? I don't get it.
I guess because of the cover story that Basil Gill gives him, that, like, he was just out on, like, a wine supply mission and just happens to be cut off from home, so he'd want to go back. But
okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay, I see it.
Kind of. I mean, there's a lot of assumptions because Perrin thinks he's the only sane one. So he thinks that he's got all the facts, and that his conclusions are the logical ones, which is like, maybe not. Possibly, maybe not.
Yeah. I also want to just point out that just before Aram and Perrin have this conversation, there's a sentence that Talonvor was fondling his sword hilt again. And I'm like, what? Like, Talonvor, go get a room. Like, I was just like, wait, did you really just say that? Like,
yeah.
Oh man. But
yeah, he's thinking about killing Balwer, is what it is. But he's like Aram. Anytime there's any threat at all, he's like, sword.
That's true. I guess, could Aram and Talonvor be new BFFs?
Oh my god. Hey, look, a threat. Let's go kill it. Yeah, let's go kill it. Yeah, honestly, they're both brooding, violence-prone, obsessive men with no leadership. Like, well, not no leadership, but without a strong sense of who to follow. Yeah, they would be horrible BFFs. They'd be a terribly destructive force on the world.
They both have this weird, like, obsession. I want to say, like, love, in quotes, obsession with another person. With Aram, it's like to the parental figures in Perrin and Feel, and for Talonvor, it's more gaze. Mm-hmm. And that's all there is, but no direction.
Yeah. Yeah. They'd be a terrible duo.
Just a sword.
Yeah.
Talonvor at least makes some demands, like he's, you know, at the end he stands up for himself like he actually is a person. He's like, I love you, but you gotta love me back or I'm letting you go. You know, Aram just makes bad decisions.
Traumatized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think Talonvor probably had more years to work up to it. You know, that's just kind of who he was. Whereas, yeah, Aram, it's a trauma response rather than a complete personality, as much as I don't think Talonvor has a complete personality. It is more complete than what Aram has.
The next thing I have is basically Perrin procrastinating by inspecting the First of Mayan camp.
Yeah,
The
he inspects the
Mayanners.
Mayanners and lets
Yeah.
us reacquaint us with Javi and Narelle, who's a very important, like, D-level character.
We get that quote about Manetheren, and not the first time the flag's been raised around here, I'll warrant, but none of those fellows have the Dragon Reborn behind him. It's basically, yeah, I'm doing this.
And Perrin noting how he's starting to talk like the Aes Sedai and speaking truths, but not the truth you think you're hearing. And I was just wondering if Perrin had been able to do this way back when in book 1, when he first met Elias, would he have been able to tell that he was lying? And because Perrin can also smell when people are lying, like he does with Basil Gill, but can he like sniff out an Aes Sedai telling a different truth?
It's one of those things where the emotions aren't like a number. It's not like a glowing sign saying this is a lie. You know, there's no lie sent, right? It's just like, oh, they're anxious or they're trying to be determined while they're.
So it's like a lie detector test-ish. Like
Yeah.
you can hear the heartbeat like speeding up or something like that.
Right, but that could also be due to the anxiety of the test, or just like with a lie detector test, there's so many false positives on those things. They're basically not reliable. And I would think the same thing is true with Perrin, where it's like a lie looks the same as nervousness, which looks the same as thinking back to your childhood embarrassment in the middle of a boring session in court, right? And so like, yeah, I imagine all those scents, get you going, and like Perrin can't tell the difference, and he doesn't know why somebody's anxious.
Right. Okay.
So that's how I always interpret it, is like the smells and the emotions are categories, and it doesn't tell you exactly what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Same thing with the water bond, right? You can know kind of what the person's emotions are, but you don't, unless you're Iondral and Pravara, you can't read the person's mind, right? Which is actually one of the reasons I never really liked the whole, like, they can read each other's minds with the bond. I feel like it jumps over that step of, like, hey, I can feel your emotions and you can feel mine, and I can kind of interpret what that means. And somehow they went from that to just being able to have, like, full conversations in their head. And I never really liked that jump.
Yeah, we get like half a page of them kind of calibrating and being
Yeah.
like, hey, can you think that again? And can we but they skip over that training montage in like literally half a page, and it should have been like a process of months or years and after a long relationship. But it's Brandon Sanderson in his Sanderlanche, so we don't get that.
Yeah. So that's the mental communication there should have been more emotional rather than verbal is all. I wish that had been written that way.
Yeah. So there's also this whole thing about the Aes Sedai getting treated like human beings that makes mere mortals uncomfortable, which is hilarious.
Yeah, and they were yelling because they were being punished, because they're being spanked like all apprentices are, and that
They have to
apparently
do
is
chores.
Right.
Oh my god, the Aes Sedai have to do chores.
Well, my interpretation is she says the Guy Shine, you have to offer the Guy Shine healing for the gash on his face. So something they did was basically what they're being punished for is violence against Guy Shine, and we know how severely the Aiel punished for that. Something. So
I don't think so. No, I disagree.
No.
Because the gash is a
Jemai's
separate
wells.
thing. Oh yeah, probably. But then the Gaishain is hurt, and this is Sionit, as far as I remember, who's been told that you have to ask. But I think that what she's being punished for is that she didn't ask, and she just went and healed another Gaishain because, oh, you can't run around like that. Like, let me heal it. I can help you. This is what I do. And she can't do that. Like, they're their own like person. You have to get consent.
Yeah, that was how I interpreted that too, is that the Aes Sedai was like, well, I'm going to heal these wounds, and the Wise Ones are like, you're going to respect the Gaishain's human autonomy is what you're going to do. Because we know that the gash is from Jemai's wells. We get given that as a detail from Perrin, that it is fresh enough to have been from Dumai's Wells and not before that.
Gosh,
I didn't pick that up.
How
but
long?
it
Yeah,
makes
how long
sense.
ago was Dumai's Wells? Dumai's Wells. Wasn't that ages ago?
Like a couple of weeks, a month.
I would
It
think
was just one book ago, but how long did you how long is Crown of Swords? I think
Thought
you
it was like a
talked
week.
about it on the
Yeah, we said it was like 10 days. Yeah, from
Yeah.
start to finish.
so it's
So it's
And-
been
but
like
the-
2-3 weeks.
I would think a gash from that time period would have healed up enough that healing wouldn't do anything.
no, wait, if Crown of Swords is 10 days and Crown of Swords ends with the girls fleeing Ebodar,
And the
and that was 7 days ago.
Mhm.
So it's been 17 days. Yeah, so
Mhm.
it would have healed some, but depending on how serious it is.
I mean, if there's an infection and I said I could heal an infection,
True.
it's not fully healed, so it could be still. I don't really know where the edge
but
is.
there are
between,
probably
like-
more Guy Shine from Dumai's Wells with wounds. So I'm assuming she healed someone, and then this is another one that.
Mm.
Yeah, could be
Potentially.
that. But yeah, I'm sure that they're also being defiant about other things and getting punished for other defiances. I mean, it's Aes Sedai and Wise Ones,
yeah.
like
Absolutely.
not doing their chores, like I forgot the tea. Well, now I will beat you with a stick. Like that's how Aiel work.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking up Gardein. Huh. Anyway, sorry about the silence there for a second. What are you looking up, Aradia?
Just trying to find all the pieces of that conversation, even though I just read it like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's all just the last. All I see is, you may go now. You will not listen further, but you may ask Gardein again to let you heal the wound on his face. Remember, if he still refuses, you must accept it. He is Guy Shine, not one of your Wetlander servants.
But was he the one that served the tea in the tent before Sionet entered? Because then she would be in the Guy Shine would be in the beginning of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm
scene.
trying to find is where he gets described.
Yeah. But I don't have a physical book. I only did audiobook, so I
Yeah,
can't really-
that is his name is only in that one spot
Okay.
in this entire book.
But
and I
I'm
don't
just
think
assuming
he's in
that
the
Perrin
tent.
would notice if the Guy Shine serving him tea had like an open wound or something.
Right.
I swear I read that when I was doing my notes for this chapter. I swear I read that.
I don't think he's in the tent. I think he's somewhere else.
No, he takes Perrin's horse. I think he's outside the tent. And I don't...
Caldric is saying that there was a mention of a fresh scar on the Guy Shine.
Yeah, and I was like, I know I read that line. Damn it.
But if it's already a scar, that means that's the person that got healed, right?
Yeah.
And then... Wait, the Guy Shine's name is Gaidin? Like the name for warder?
Garaldine.
Garaldine. Oh, okay. Sorry. Names. You know.
Yeah.
The Guy Shine that take his horse don't have a scar on his face, on their faces. There's no
No.
mention.
Wait, Perrin didn't bring a horse. He just walked, right? And this...
Oh, they're leading the Aiel's pack mules.
Oh,
They're not actually taking his horse.
Mhm.
They're-
okay.
Well, this is just annoying. I hate it when I know I've read something and then I can't find it. But
wound. I don't see that in this chapter anywhere. Scar. Sulin has a scar.
I found it. I found it. A square-faced guy, Ch9, who was half as big as he was, knelt to offer a golden cup. Blah, 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 blah. The fellow bowed meekly out and bent himself out of the tent backward, but the half-healed slash down his hard face had to date from Dumai's Wells.
Hmm.
Found it! Ha! That took way too long.
Okay, so half healed from Dumai's Wells. So yeah, okay.
So there's still something for the Aes Sedai to heal.
Right.
It's from Dumai's Wells. Yeah. Not sure why we got on that tangent in the first place, but...
Oh, because I was thinking that she had caused the wound.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what she was being punished for. And that was like, oh, I assume she was throwing it. My assumption, and obviously I missed this statement, and I didn't make the connection that so good catch, because I didn't make the connection that this guy was the same. My assumption is that she had been throwing a fit or something and had accidentally hurt a guy Ch9 and was being punished for that, and only until she was and had offered to heal him, but he had said no until she had to get enough G to make up for her toe. And so I concocted a whole story in my head, which is obviously wrong now. Thank you very much, Radio. I appreciate that. So
but that's good headcanon. I mean, that fits with the facts you had.
Yeah, I just missed that. Yeah. So, passing over that whole thing, they are there to convince him because of the dream that Masima must die.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
Yeah. And I wonder how much of that is he should have been his influence. All right, so here's the other story I'm concocting. Other than Perrin's Tavir twisting, Aram would have killed Perrin, right? There was just Aram got shot when he was about to kill Perrin. But Perrin was defeated. Perrin went down.
Yeah, Perrin tripped and was about to die.
And died. So, my theory is that a lot of what's going on with this warning is Masima needs to die so he doesn't influence Aram, so Aram doesn't kill Perrin. Because the Dreamers see that as a very real chance that if he doesn't kill Masima, that will lead to his death and the end of everything. Unfortunately, the Tavir twisting does sort of make that not happen. So, I mean, there's a lot of other reasons why Masima must die. He's crazy and he leads a group of insane people. But there's very much prophecy and dream that he has to die.
I definitely agree that there's some prophecy in the capital D dream. But I also think that Fail eventually makes sure that Masima dies. And if she hadn't done that, then he could have done even more harm. So maybe what they've seen in like the prophecy that they've seen would have happened after the whole Soul Harbor thing. Yeah, the whole getting Fail back.
That's entirely possible, is that Fail fixes the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. And something I would sort of is that's my first level interpretation. My second level is like, but Perrin really should have killed him earlier.
Yes.
Maybe there's some of the bad stuff that happens between now and when Masima dies has to do with the fact that he is not killed. I don't know. I'm trying to make some connection there. That Perrin should have taken action earlier, and that would have prevented maybe Fail getting kidnapped and that whole plot line. I don't know. You know?
Yeah, I completely agree that I think what happened was that the Dreamers saw that Masima needs to die. They don't see when.
Yeah.
Because there's a long period before he has to die, and so he could die as soon as now. Or he could die across however many months, and he just is a problem until he gets killed. And if Fail hadn't done that, then yeah, maybe he would have ended up getting close enough to Rand to kill him. And
Yeah.
like Fael literally saved the world by doing that, you know?
So yeah, I like what Caldric said about that. Is like, yeah, exactly what you just said. If Masima had gotten close enough to Rand, he may have killed him. Like
That totally checks
that
out.
totally checks out. Yeah. So that
And also we don't get either or prophecies very often. Like when Min gives
No.
us the two either ors, it's like a huge deal. And granted, Min is not the same as a dreamer, but like
right, we get a lot
generally
more
we get given
dreamer.
absolutes.
Well, I would actually disagree with you there. The dreamers almost always give us potentials, right? Like
That's
with
true.
Moraine, like
Prophecies
if
and
you
dreams
show,
are not the
they're not the
same.
same thing.
So, yeah,
The dreamers, like remember with Moraine, it's like we knew that if you came, you would survive.
If
or
on a
you
line came with you, then everything was fine.
right?
Yeah,
and if you didn't come, he would die. And there's all this like ifs and
Do you
thens and
think
buts.
yeah.
Do you think that they're that the Aiel dreamers dream differently from having gone through Ruidian? Because Ruidian shows you potential futures, and that's how Moraine knows and can tell Tom if blah blah blah, then but you know. And I saw that in this scenario that doesn't work, so don't do that. Only bring 3, or and Matt has to be 1, but you cannot tell this to Matt, you know. So she's seen all different possibilities of the future,
Right.
and maybe the dreamers also sees, oh my god, words.
Yeah.
Maybe the Aiel dreamers also see potential futures, and in all of them it's like, oh crap, Masima has to die.
Yeah. I think
But-
it's a combination of both, right? I think you've got two abilities that both inform the wise women, and we don't always know why they're acting, but they both, because the first time they go through that ring Terangrial, right?
Right.
They don't go through the columns, so they see all those alternate futures, and sometimes it triggers a memory, right? Oh shit, I have to turn left here, or else I'm gonna die, because in every future where I turn right, I die. And so that happens sometimes where a wise one's like, holy shit, guys, Terangrial says we have to go this, there's water here, or I just remembered something. And then there's the other part of that, which is some of the wise women are dreamers, and they occasionally get dreams that they can interpret and be like, hey, I had a dream pertinent. And dreams always seem more pertinent to what's going on now, whereas going through the rings, you only get to go through once. And then you get all your visions, But the memories, they come back, events trigger memories, right? So
Yeah.
So, but then when you go through the rings, then you get possible outcomes of multiple events.
yes.
But what if they then dream and they only dream about one event, but then they are maybe able to dream about multiple outcomes?
Sure, yeah. Oh, you mean that, like, if they hadn't gone through the Terangrial, they would only see the one outcome, not the options?
Yeah, then they would be more like
Yeah.
Egwene's dreams, where, Seanchan are going to attack the White Tower. I know this for a fact, but, why won't you listen to me?
I mean,
But I don't know.
their visions of many lives may help them interpret the dreams, right?
Yeah.
Like, because the interpreting is the hard part that Egwene always fails on.
Yeah, I could totally see going through those 3 rings and having that experience be like a quick training experience, like a calibration or something like that gives them a little leg up for the rest of their lives dealing with dreams. Plus, even if they only have one dream, they are each having dreams about that, and they can bring that information together in the waking world and
That's true.
work on it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
crowdsource an interpretation that is more likely to be accurate.
The multiple dreamers, yeah, that's the thing. Egwene has nothing to compare her dreams to, but
She
if
doesn't have anyone to
every-
talk to.
She has no one to talk to. If every dreamer is having the same dream, all of a sudden that becomes much more significant.
Whereas if they all have dreams about the same event with different details, they can kind of fuzz in what the probabilities are without knowing the exact future. Margot says their version of Discord. Yes.
He tries to turn conversation back to the Aiel, basically saying, hey, you can't beat them, and their response is, hey, maybe you can learn from them instead of beating them, and their response is, we learn, we teach, and we learn.
Yeah, this
But
is
mostly-
a two-way street.
This is a two-way street. But if they're going to learn, they're doing it in our framework. They are apprentices, and we're treating them like apprentices.
Yeah, this whole conversation with Perrin being like, well, hey, Aes Sedai, don't you know these Aiel women want to kill you? And the Aiel are like, have you met us? Why would you think that? Which like reminds me of my irritation with Perrin when him and Rand have their fake fight, where this is what Perrin says to Rand. It's like, you're gonna give them to women who would just kill them. And was sitting there in the podcast episode being like, Perrin, have you met the Aiel? That's not what they're gonna do. And it's nice to see the Aiel like actually sitting him down and being like, have you met us? No.
But I'm just gonna push the ADHD bill again. So a lot of people with ADHD also have some kind of emotional like dysregulation. So we have like flares of emotions, and it's really hard not to act on them. And so I can imagine Perrin says he smelled that kind of hatred at Duma as well as for these people. And so like, if that was me having that much hatred in me and with my ADHD, that would be really, really hard to manage and to act correctly from. And he does say that, oh, you don't smell like that right now, but you know, that doesn't really make sense. So I think that's why he is so convinced that eventually, if the Aes Sedai do enough wrong, they're gone.
He can't conceive of someone with that much hatred bearing it and treating them as apprentices now. And like, yeah, it's gone because like they have moved on past that shame. Things have changed. He doesn't understand that a lot of that was their own personal shame about failing the Aes Sedai. And now the fact that the Aes Sedai have proven themselves basically incompetent, they're like, yeah, we're beyond that. Like, that's not a problem for us anymore. Like, and these women are they're basically in our care, and we are here to teach them how to be better women. And sometimes in our culture, that involves a little bit of spanking.
Yeah, I can see that. He does not have any parallel for understanding their level of like culture, like their Ji'ito, their ability to move on. He's winging it as far as that goes, and just that makes Perrin make a lot more sense. He's like, everyone operates like I do. Nobody else thinks in a different way. So you're gonna be that angry, you're gonna be chopping people's hands off and threatening to leave them by the side of the road pretty quick here. Which Perrin does. So.
No.
Yeah.
So Cyanid comes in and is basically like, keep your fucking nose out of this. This is our business. Like, you're not
helping.
Basically women's circle business, like all the way back to Emmons Field. Like, stick your nose out of it. This is women's circle business. Stick with your men's circle, the men's council stuff, right? Like, don't interact with the punishment of women by other women.
Yeah. Also, stop defending me. I'm fine.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, a woman has been beaten. Oh my God, everybody knows a woman has been beaten. Not just a woman, but an Aes Sedai. Oh no, to the rescue. Oh my God, no. Stop this bullshit.
Yeah.
The women can stand up for themselves.
There was one line that I wanted to talk about. They will remain apprentices until 5 wise ones agree they are ready to be more. So that is interesting that like when Avienda they're ready for Avienda to be a wise one, she needs 5 wise ones to say okay, even if she does stand up and demand. Which brings me back to Savannah. How the hell did Savannah get 5 wise ones to okay her readiness?
I gotta think that there's something to do with why the Shido are the shitty Aiel. Some
maybe 5
rot
Shido,
in their cultural fiber. I'm guessing she bullied them, tricked them,
but
something.
Doesn't the 5 have to be like, okay, Avienda comes to us, says, I am ready, I am worthy, I am just as good as you guys are now. And then 5 wise ones have to accept that statement.
Yeah.
Is that where it is? Because then Savannah can just...
Oh.
Well, I think probably 5 of them have to agree that if the question gets posed, they're going to say yes, I would imagine. Is this kind of like 5 of them are like behind closed doors, like, yeah, she's ready to go. Like, because Avienda doesn't go to 5 of them specifically. Like, this is not part of the apprenticeship. So, right. So there's an apprentice and 5 wise ones are like, okay, she's ready. We're going to start torturing her until she stands up for herself. Right.
But then there's the whole other thing.
Savannah was never an apprentice. She just came in and said, I'm ready.
Right. And you need a whole other thing where you need 3 wise ones to say, okay, you're ready to go to Rhodia. We saw that.
How the fuck did she become a wise one?
Yeah.
This is internally inconsistent.
Well, she never went to Rhuidean, first of all.
So she didn't need the 5?
So she didn't need the 3. And maybe this 5 is just for these. Maybe this is a special, like, listen, until 5 of us agree that they're ready, they are apprentices. Because they're Aes Sedai.
Technically, they don't say that 5 of us needs to say you're a wise one now. They say 5 of us needs to say you are now more than an apprentice.
Right, ready to be more.
So yeah, it's.
And that more could just be ready to be Aes Sedai again.
Right, ready to be women, allowed to have autonomy, ready to be adults, ready to be human.
And that could be just how they're handling this special case of Rand handing them the Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
Did the Aes Sedai swear an oath to the wise ones to obey them, or to
to obey Rand, who orders them to obey the wise ones? So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's at some point where Siona like stops talking as soon as the wise ones like says, okay, quiet, enough. And it felt to me the way she reacted and the way that she just like clammed up was like, oh, it sort of feels like she's somehow sworn, and because of her tell no lies oath on the oath rod, she would have to obey that. And so I was just thinking, if the 5 then say, okay, we release you from this oath to us now, that would mean that they're more than an apprentice then. But
I think with Savannah, it must have been a matter of she convinced the Shido Wise Ones, and when the Shido Wise Ones presented a unified conclusion to the other clans as Wise Ones, they weren't gonna like double check their work, because that like gets away from the distributed leadership of the Aiel. So that must have been how she did it. Somehow fuckery involving the Shido, and then the Shido were presenting that to the other Wise Ones. But that's
Margot is saying that she probably had dirt on the wise ones.
I mean, the Shido being who they are and Savannah being who she is, I don't think she's an isolated incident as far as being a nasty person.
No.
And I mean, same with Couladin and Muradin, right? Like, they both were shitty people, clearly. And Suladric probably wasn't great either. Like, it's just...
Muradin, all we know is that he clawed his own eyes out. Doesn't mean he was a bad dude. Just
know he was too weak to accept the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. But they were susceptible to Savannah, so clearly they were of weak moral fiber. It's not a good way to judge people. But it's true.
So... we get a drumbeat from the Aes Sedai, from the Wise Ones, everybody. You gotta kill Masima. I have swore to serve the Dragon Reborn, and the best service I can give him now is to keep this animal from him. Bad enough that rulers know Masima supports him. Worse if they see him embrace the man. And thousands will die if you fail to get close enough to Masima to kill him.
I love that little twist. Thousands will die if you fail to kill him. Not to bring him into the fold. That's what you thought you were doing. No, you were here to kill.
And I like that interpretation of, like, he is an animal, do not embrace him. You know, and I feel like that's something we've certainly seen in American politics lately, is, like, don't embrace the crazies on your side just because they support you. You do have to write them off, or else you end up with a very extreme base.
Jesus, mind you, Jesus just said in the chat, having Masima on your side is like getting David Duke's endorsement.
Basically.
This is accurate, especially because Jesus said it.
Who's David Duke?
David Duke is a former head of the KKK.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not good news.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And he likes to endorse candidates.
Yeah. There's, I don't know if anyone here...
The former leader of KKK is still alive?
Yeah.
Wait, this existed in, like, what?
The KKK is a thriving hate organization, unfortunately.
Yeah, it still exists and still has a leader.
Yeah.
What?
There's a bunch of them in Oregon, actually.
Yep.
There was actually a school in Southern Oregon where a bunch of school kids tried to form a KKK charter on school grounds, like, last year. I think.
Also, a bunch of cops were just called being cops were being caught associated with those groups. Not the KKK directly, but
Yeah.
Well, that unfortunately doesn't surprise me now that I know it still exists.
Yeah. No, there's an incredible movie that came out. Well, it was before the pandemic because I saw it in a movie
the Black
theater.
Klansman
Yeah,
movie
and at the
thingy?
end, so they've got David Duke in it the whole time, right? Because he's a leader of the KKK at the time, and then they switch to actual footage from the Unite the Right rally where Heather Heyer died, and like clips of David Duke endorsing Trump. They just like slide right from the fictional film into these pieces of not fictional film, and it feels like it could have been directed for the movie, but you know it's real. It was a really intense moment to end that movie on, and it was already an intense movie. So yeah, Masima and David Duke, I like this comparison. It works frighteningly well, except that I think David Duke, to a certain extent, probably has one or two more brain cells than Masima. Maybe Masima's just insane. I think David Duke actually has plans, but I don't know.
Actually, I have in my notes somewhere that if you're not with Masima, you're against Masima, and that fits into this conversation pretty well also.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, to Marco's point in chat while Seth stops breaking his studio. Yeah, Oregon is the only...
Like the clamp came right off my desk with my mic, and my whole mic just like fell onto my... So I guess I must have unclamped it. So yeah, let me fix that.
But yeah, Oregon...
Make sure it didn't hit any buttons. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. But yeah, fun Oregon history. We're the only state in the United States that was admitted with a whites-only clause to the Union. We tried to make ourselves a white utopia state in the aftermath of the Civil War. A bunch of Southerners were like, well, if there weren't black people around, then we wouldn't have these stupid wars. So we'll make a state where you can't be black. So you get sundown towns and like all kinds of interesting legislation that says no black people.
You mean if you didn't kidnap like a whole bunch of people and bring them over to be your slaves, then there wouldn't have been a civil war?
Yeah. Huh. Also, there wouldn't have been in America, but you know. It's a thing. So yeah, Oregon has, it's hilarious how much like Eugene and Portland are like, we're so liberal. And then it's like, gonna need a little American history. Cause no, you aren't. It's like there's still like housing deeds up here that are like, if they hadn't been rewritten since the 60s, it'll say like, you cannot sell this house to black people. Like, this is the thing, people are still finding in deeds to old houses that they're having to be like, okay, we're correcting that. It's, yeah.
Holy shit, that's insane. Like, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist in Denmark, it definitely does, but I'm still like just blown away by the fact that KKK is still existing. And I am totally not qualified to be a part of this conversation, being privileged and
it's
my skin color.
It's good stuff. I feel obliged to know it because I live in Oregon. Yeah, it's well, I mean, living in the US, but
yeah, I was blown away by finding out some of the history of Oregon, especially around the gold rush and the treatment of Chinese immigrants.
Or everything to do with Native Americans and the gold rush.
Yeah. Well,
that's fun stuff.
There's Pickett. We did terrible things to that group of people.
You can make a podcast out of this.
We should.
No, we shouldn't. We are not qualified. We are not historically or legally or socially qualified to do that.
We could talk about how the Sanjan invaded Brandland and also enslaved just very specific marginalized group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Just a small 5 to 10% of the population.
Chattel slavery. It's cool when it's
fine.
for magic people.
Speaking of Broken Earth spoilers.
Yeah, pretty much. Hop on over to Broken Earth if you want more of me yelling about that in an unqualified manner. So, Seth, you put your studio back together. Can we return to the book at hand?
Yeah, we're close enough. Yeah.
Okay. So, we get the distinction that Missouri thinks that you can leash a rabid dog and make him pull your dog sled to wherever you're trying to go, which is an issue that will persist in the background for a while.
And it's really Anora's the one who ends up going to him, right? And making sort of the truce. So
Missouri convinces her? Then?
I think Masuri thinks she can be. I think Masuri changes her mind pretty quick.
Okay.
Because
So they both change their minds.
eventually.
If Honora's the one that goes to him and Masuri thinks he can be unleashed now, that means that they flip their positions?
Well, there's 3 different Aes Sedai here. You're mixed. So
Yeah, Sioned right now, Sioned and Missouri are apprentice wise ones.
right.
Sioned thinks kill Masima.
Yep.
Missouri thinks let's collar him. And Anora, who's advisor to Berylene, I'm not sure what her position is in regards to Masima, but she has agreed to come on this fun adventure to go find him and bring him to the Dragon Reborn.
And she eventually ends up going on secret meetings with him.
Yes.
But at this point, I don't think she has an opinion.
Oh, but also, it's funny that you say that. Yeah, Missouri thinks that you can color this rabbit dog that they refer to Masima as, and she also thinks that she can call it the wolf, which is Perrin. They say that.
That's true. Yeah.
She's like, wait, did she just compare Perrin and Masima? Wait, what happened?
Aes Sedai kind of see, I mean, like how Morghese looked at Perrin and was like, this is one of the dragon's henchmen. Meh. Like, some of the Aes Sedai, I think, kind of see Perrin and Matt like that, as just these appendages of Rand, rather than like Ta'Veren and important characters in their own right. So, fetter the dragon through fettering his friends. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's basically what Berylene is trying to do. She's like, okay, attach myself to the Dragon Reborn. Okay, bubble of evil. Hell no. Going to Perrin next.
Right, yeah, totally. Lots of people see Perrin and Matt that way.
All right, so Crossroads of Twilight, Celinda reports to Perrin that Masuri and Rovar have been meeting with Masima. They sometimes bring Anora along.
Okay.
So it's all so both Masuri and Anora were meeting with.
Wait, who was
Okay.
Missouri and who had gone?
Rovar, who I think is her warder.
Oh, okay.
So Anora, no, not Anora. So Seonid is never on Team Masima. Should be anything other than gutted like a fish. Cool. Name salad, guys. Name salad is hard.
Right, and it's tough when you've got Masuri meeting with Masima. That's it's close enough. Anyway. But yeah, so I guess that is she and Anora must be of similar minds about that.
I feel like Anora comes around to the kill Masima thing after seeing him a few times. I feel
Yeah,
like at one point she talks to Perrin. She's like, so I tried to talk to him because I wanted to explore options because I'm a gray, but nope, not gonna happen.
Well, and that's the whole thing is like he gets really suspicious of her. He's like, you have to tell me why you were meeting with him. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like it feels like a betrayal. And she's like, I tried, and he's insane. Like, and he's like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's all I've got for the chapter till the readout.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at Anora's stuff here.
This is what Spoilers is all about, is taking the name salad and finding the ingredients list. Following the chain of custody. Where did all this stuff go?
And that's why we edit this.
Oh my god, this one's gonna have some chunks edited out.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry.
No,
It's not you.
It's not you, it's
not
me.
you.
Yeah.
It's the research and it's the KKK diversion. People who get the live videos are gonna just get the entire KKK discussion. But I
Yeah,
think the
that's fine.
podcast will either have it taken out or put at the end. Because that
fair.
was spicy and unnecessary.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're killing
talking
time
about it
away.
is necessary,
Yeah.
but we can spiral a few
just-
times.
I feel sort of uncomfortable just 3 white people talking about it. You know? Yeah.
Wow.
I've gotten past that to an extent because we have to deal
Like,
with it.
yes, we
but
need to talk about it and we
Yeah.
need to call each other out for sure, but also rather amplify,
Yeah.
some other voices.
It's very
I have the
tangentially
opportunity.
related to the content, so.
That is true.
Yeah.
Do you want to read us out?
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out where to start.
As soon as she was gone. That was where I had highlighted.
As soon as she was gone, the 6 wise ones focused on Perrin again. Now, Adara said, you can explain to us why you would put a rabid animal next to the Karakarn. Only a fool obeys another's command to push him over a cliff, Navarin said. You will not listen to us, Janara said, so we will listen to you. Speak, Perrin Abara. Perrin considered making a break for the door flaps, but if he did, he would leave behind one Aes Sedai who might possibly be of some doubtful help, and another, along with 6 wise ones who were all set to ruin everything he had come to do. He put his wine cup down again and settled his hands on his knees. He needed a clear head if he was to show these women he was no tethered goat.
Wise of him.
Very wise.
Wine will not help him.
Maybe as something to cover his mouth occasionally when he's like trying to hide, but not as a drink.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's turn recording off on that one.
Okay. That was epic.
That was good.
Spot.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or
Support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?